My name is Nathan Burkholder. I'm with Kitewire, and we've been working and supporting the federal government and the Department of Defense for several years now. Some of the current problems that we're focusing on and that we're working with them on is how they're looking at future forecasting, how they're trying to look at the investments, the trends, the future threats, the projections of technology and where it's going from a global perspective, and understanding where they will get the most value for their investments in research and development. SharpCloud for us provided a visually intuitive environment where we could show something that was otherwise very complex and difficult to manage and understand between all of the different interrelated parts, and be able to provide that in a way that was digestible to leadership in a way that they could make informed decisions. And one of the things that we have seen, and that I know a lot of in the commercial sector as well, or struggle with or face, is this fear of when it comes to making decisions later on, looking back and being able to truly defend those and be able to have supporting data to back up the decisions that you make. And one of the value propositions for us with SharpCloud was just how data-driven it was and how it enabled leadership to make informed decisions, but using authoritative data behind that, not just a glossy brochure that was put in front of them. SharpCloud is an incredibly unique product, and what really separates it from others that are out there is how it's taken a laser focus on this issue with data. We live in an environment right now where there's an ever-increasing amount of data that's being collected from a variety of sensors, a variety of different media sources, a variety of different means. And many communities that we work with in the government oftentimes are drowning underneath the amount of data that they currently have. One of the conversations that I've had several times with analysts that are working with data is the challenges that they face, not so much in needing more data, but the challenge that they face in actually being able to take the data that they have and communicate it in a way that tells a story, that infects a change, that communicates some kind of a message in a way that leadership and others are able to make decisions. That's really the value that I have seen with SharpCloud. And one of the unique things about it, more than a presentation tool or any other types of tools that are out there visualizing just information from a marketing perspective, but the fact that SharpCloud really takes such a laser focus on being able to take authoritative information and data from multiple sources and streams, and in a very intuitive and automated way allow you to create robust, dynamic visuals that communicate a story of a particular interest or focus for analysts and leadership alike to be able to view, and everybody being the same sheet of music. It's a very, very powerful capability in today's current environment. One of the profoundly interesting things that I have observed in working with new users of SharpCloud as they first begin to experience it is how freeing it's been for them to open up a new creative means for them to communicate in a way that they didn't have before. Oftentimes what we have seen and what I've experienced with folks is that they've got blinders almost and limiting them based off of preconceived notions of what they can do with information, based off tools that they've used in the past. And there's many tools that we've been forced to use and others for a long time that have become the default mechanism for communication. SharpCloud just opens up an incredibly new paradigm for a lot of different folks to get their message out in a way that's meaningful, a way that's interactive, in a way, frankly, that they didn't have before, to do in such a way that's efficient. We spend a lot of time working with clients that think, I just don't want to learn something new. And what's interesting about the clients that start actually seeing SharpCloud in motion and using it is the fact that they get excited because they can see how this is going to impact them on a day-to-day basis. They're not just having to learn another tool that's adding an additional burden to a busy workday. They're actually learning a capability that's going to find new time for them that they didn't have before because of the efficiencies now that they have in being able to communicate information in a dynamic, robust way. When presenting to an audience, oftentimes you go in with a mindset of trying to understand where they're approaching your information, your message from. And we do oftentimes a lot of work up front to try to understand our audience so that the message we're communicating communicates well to them. We've had to do that in the past because you only got one shot at it. You couldn't change what you were doing on the fly. You couldn't adjust the presentation towards a particular focus that you were just now seeing emerge from that audience member that you were engaging with. The beauty of SharpCloud's dynamic environment from a presentation perspective is that you can have a lot of resources, a lot of tools, a lot of different variations of your message available to you in real time. As you're engaging with your client or as you're engaging with a customer, even internally or externally, you can look at your audience and you can engage with them in a dialogue as opposed to a one-sided conversation. And in that dialogue process, now you have the ability to react. And that reaction allows you to keep them engaged, to walk them on a journey through the information, through a message, and ultimately, hopefully, arriving towards the conclusions or the results that you're hoping to accomplish from